Hi, thanks for joining me to talk about older adult nutrition. While we'll be focusing mainly on nutrition in this presentation, it's important to note that there are many additional factors that contribute to longevity. When centenarians share what they think is the key to long life, their answers include work hard, love what you do, treat others with respect, handle stress and adjust to change, keep a positive attitude, and some mention living clean by avoiding excess and eating good food. They are also a happy and optimistic group. Genetics play a part, but it is this holistic package that leads people to a ripe old age. So who is an older adult? For the sake of measurement, policies, and programs, most consider 65 years of age to be an older adult. Though 65 years old isn't a predictor of a person's declining health or functional abilities. Health varies widely from person to person, no matter what age. So an important indicator might be just to ask somebody, how are you getting on? Can you do things that you want to do? There are physiological changes that come along with normal aging. The skin becomes less elastic, and a person may experience changes in vision, hearing, height, and sleeping patterns. The main changes that you'll notice in clients which can contribute to nutritional status are things like body composition. There's reduced fat mass, fat-free mass, and reduced lean body mass. A person can actually lose many pounds of muscle and replace it with almost the same amount of fat by their 70s. So you'll see this shift in composition. Sensory decline and disturbances in oral health are often associated with old age, but aren't necessarily a normal part of aging. They are both important to nutrition in older adults. Declining taste, smell, and the possibility of tooth loss can obviously affect what older adults eat and their nutritional status. Another important change that can affect nutritional status in older adults is the appetite and thirst cues. In both, they seem to be weakened. An older adult may need to be more conscious of their food intake to make sure that they are not over or under eating. And with fluid intakes, it needs to be watched so that they get enough. Nutritional risk factors increase an elderly person's chance of developing chronic illnesses such as heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and stroke. Screening is helpful to identify these factors, and the results can be used for prevention. There are different assessment tools that are used. Some rely on comparing actual nutrient intake to recommendations from places like MyPlate or the recommended dietary allowances and the dietary reference intakes. And there's another tool that actually looks at environmental factors that was created by the Nutrition Screening Initiative, and it's called DETERMINE. It's an acronym for disease, eating poorly, tooth loss, economic hardship, reduced social contact, multiple medicines, involuntary weight loss or gain, needs assistance in self-care, and elderly above 80 years. And this is actually a condensed list. There are many other considerations. And I want to look a little bit more closely at food insecurity. Food insecurity among older adults is a critical public health issue. The USDA defines food insecurity as the state of being without reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable nutritional food. Food insecurity is most widespread among older adults with the lowest income, but it seems that no one group is impervious. There is a possibility of food insecurity regardless of income level, age, gender, race, ethnicity, marital status, or region of residence. After the 2008 recession, food insecurity greatly increased and overall has continued to be a widespread issue. In 2012, 5.3 million Americans over the age of 60 were food insecure, which is 9% of all seniors. Food insecure seniors are also at an increased risk for chronic health conditions. They're more likely to experience depression, heart attack, asthma, and more likely to report an experience of congestive heart failure. And we need to watch for the baby boomers as food insecure seniors is projected to increase to 50% when the youngest of the baby boom generation reaches 60. So dietary recommendations. You will find that there's a special category for greater than 70 years old when looking at the recommended daily allowances, adequate intake, and the tolerable upper intake levels for vitamins and minerals. And that's really helpful when working with older adults. When looking at energy needs for older adults, it's important to keep in mind that physical activity usually decreases, as does the basal metabolic rate. Because of this, daily caloric needs decline. It is estimated that energy needs decline 7 to 10 calories per year, so over a decade that could add up to almost 100 calories per day. It's important to keep in mind that below 1,600 calories per day, a person would have a difficult time meeting vitamin and mineral requirements. So there are some specific nutrient concerns for older adults. Carbs and fiber, the biggest concern is not actually getting them, but getting better nutrient-dense carbs by eating fiber-rich food. Generally, older adults get enough protein in their diets, but there are some cases for concern if they're following a modified diet or they can't afford meat or are cutting back on a meat, a person might be lacking in protein. And it's also important to take into consideration the quality of that protein. And with fats and cholesterol, as at any other age, you need to watch this. Avoiding high saturated fat and trans fat are important to reduce the risk of chronic diseases. And fluids, as we talked about already, older adults don't seem to notice thirst as clearly as they did when they were younger, so this needs to be watched. So there are metabolic changes and the possibility of low dietary intake that cause additional concern for certain vitamins. I'm just going to look at a few of these. With vitamin A, older adults are actually at risk for vitamin A toxicity due to plasma levels and liver stores increasing. This is most likely due to a decreased clearance of vitamin A metabolites from the blood. And vitamin D, older adults have a fourfold decrease in the ability of the skin to synthesize vitamin D from the sun, and this puts them at a higher risk for vitamin D deficiency. And with B12, older adults often suffer from atrophic gastritis, which leads to decreased absorption of vitamin B12. And it takes a while, but there can be vitamin B deficiency, and it can cause serious neurological issues. And vitamin B12 is actually more easily absorbed in its synthetic form, so supplements are used. And calcium, most older adults don't meet the adequate intake level for calcium as absorption seems to decline with age. But because many foods are fortified with calcium, and an individual might also be taking a supplement that has calcium, it's important to pay attention to the upper limit. High calcium intake has been associated with many issues, including interference with mineral absorption, such as magnesium, and kidney stones. Physical activity is essential for healthy aging. It's important for both physical and mental health, and it is helpful to keep people independent as long as possible. According to the CDC's physical activity guidelines specifically for older adults, regular exercise will lower the risk of early death, coronary heart disease, stroke, blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and some cancers. It also helps with prevention of weight gain, weight loss, improved cardiorespiratory fitness and muscular strength, prevention of falls, reduced depression, and better brain functioning is the cure-all. So how much physical activity should an older adult get? At least 150 minutes of aerobic activity. This could be dancing or walking the dog, going to a yoga class. Muscle strengthening should always include all of the muscle groups. And how often? Aerobic activity should be at least 3 days a week, spread out throughout the week if possible, and muscle strengthening should be at least 2 days a week. So how do we work with older adults? Nutrition education is very important to support dietary behavior changes. In our text, Nutrition Through the Life Cycle, they have this great section. They present the 4 C's to make sure that education actually leads to behavior change, which is obviously happening in all age groups. For older adults, they're specifically looking at these 4 C's. Commitment is a commitment from the individual to adopt health promoting behaviors. Cognitive processing is making sure that the individual understands how food behaviors are contributing to their health. And capability, helping the older adult to acquire the skills they need to put the new food behaviors into practice. And confidence. With personal confidence, people are more willing to put their new education into practice. It is also essential to address any limitations that older adults might have when you're educating them. They might have declining vision or hearing loss, so be sure to accommodate these issues. If you have a handout, make the font size bigger. If you're teaching a class, make sure your students can hear you. Education alone is not enough. Our food policies, like Social Security program, need to continue to support nutrition education and counseling, in addition to financial support to make sure older adults have access to food. There's so much more to say about older adult nutrition. I'm sorry we had such a short time to begin this review. I hope that you will continue researching on your own. Thank you.